What's happening and welcome back. Let me ask you a question. Do you want to spend 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or even your life wasting time without finding what you really need to find? Do you want to do that? Look, I don't want to do that today. I woke up and I was a little unsettled, but something reminded me of a book that I had sitting on my couch that I had just purchased. It's called The War of Art. And so I picked the book up, start reading it, and something stirred. I want to share what stirred in me today. And I'm hoping that it's going to help not just myself, but it'll help you so that you can avoid any time that could potentially be wasted. So this is how we start this today. There's a word that I mentioned last week, resistance. I mentioned it. Someone else mentioned it to me. I bought this book, and the book stirred something in me to show me reasons, um, why, to show me why things tend to not work out or why things do work out. So a couple of days ago, I did a podcast. What you don't know, you actually know was the title of that podcast. And in that podcast, what I was sharing and just kind of exerting as an idea, excuse me, what I was exerting was that we have the answers already. Like a lot of times we're looking for the answers. We're desiring something. We want to change something. We want to become something. And in the podcast, what I was sharing is that, hey, we have like God is in us, and God is there. God has put a little bit of Himself in each and every one of us that can potentially help us to solve major problems. And a lot of times, not even a lot, most of the time, we we tend to focus on the wrong things. I can tell you yesterday I was focused on the wrong thing. Yesterday, Sunday, I worked out, I did some reading, did some stuff. I did some things, but I was probably focused on the wrong things. And it was the resistance. What are we talking about today? Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about wasted time. And wasted time will happen to just about everybody if we don't understand this resistance. Resistance could almost be something that, when people say, oh, that's from the devil. Folks say that a lot. Oh my goodness, like, or something on the outside of us is causing us a problem. So resistance is that thing that happens when we know we should be doing something, when we know there's something to accomplish, when we know that, hey, I just got to sit down and write the book. I got to sit down and create the video. I got to sit down and start the business. Got to sit down and create the product. Got to sit down and create the program. Got to sit down and do something. And usually it's almost like the resistance comes. Resistance comes in many forms, and typically, where does it start? Resistance starts from within us. It's something within all of us that wants to keep you and I in safety, just kind of like in comfortability. And when I think about some of the things that I said I want to do and some of the things that I know that I should do, it's usually the resistance that comes that says, oh, you know what? You can wait till tomorrow to do that. So I was looking around. I was looking around my office. I was looking around just kind of like where I have different things. And I was like, man, I have every answer that I need. I got books. So I got books in boxes. I gotta make sure you know what? I'm going to do this. There's some things I need to do in my office, but I have books in boxes. I have books that I'm reading, books that I've got out. I have books on bookshelves. And I says, man, if I have a problem, someone else has already solved it. Like if I've got a problem, somebody else has already solved the same problem that I need to get solved. So think about this. If if we have a problem, how like how much will we focus on getting that problem solved? See, a lot of times we look in the wrong places. A lot of times we allow the resistance to come in and says, you know what? There's no way you're going to get that done. There's no way that's going to happen. You know, in this book, The War of Art, he mentioned a story about a lady who had cancer. She had cancer. She found out she had cancer and think she had 6 months to live. What do you think she did? She quit her job, and then she started doing all the things she wanted to do. She started living her dream. You know what happened? Her cancer went into remission. Like, that's kind of wild. She got cancer. It was a bad, like the worst thing that could happen. I'm gonna die. Well, you know what? I'm just go ahead and live now. See, the resistance keeps us from living the life that we really want to live. It's just that to get to where we want to go, there's resistance. Think of resistance as just like this. If if I was going from Maryland, where I live, to New York City, where's the resistance? The resistance is the miles to get there. It's over 200 miles, maybe 250 miles to get from my house to New York City. So if there's 250 miles to get there, then there's resistance. That means that I've got to get in the car. I got to get in the car. I've got to get gas. Got to make sure I got enough gas in my car. I've got to drive. There may be traffic on the way. It may be a slowdown. Instead of it being 4.5, 5 hours, maybe it's 6 or 7. You know, you get hungry along the way. You know, maybe you got to make a stop. You know, maybe there's a car accident that stops you, that slows you down. Resistance. See, this resistance puts a barrier between where we want to go and where we are. And depending on where we are would depend on what we do in the process. Sitting here looking back on time, and you know, when you look back on time, what you see is, in most of our cases, I know I saw wasted time. Like, why did I waste that time? Why didn't I just do something productive? Why did I sit there and like, hey, yesterday I just fell off the bonkers. I was watching college basketball. I don't normally watch. I hadn't watched any. Watched some college basketball. Watched some NBA. Watched a movie. Not saying that I shouldn't do that. But when I thought about it, I says, man, I could have done something else. See, if you don't have that thought, if it's just, hey, you're just going to do it, and you don't have the thoughts that I have, then you're good. But me, I'm like, well, I should have done something else. The only saving grace I have for the day is that I did go to the gym. I did do that. And I did do 500 push-ups. So I have some success. Then I had some time in between that. I said, man, it was something that I wanted to do. I could have spent those 3-4 hours just kind of like educating myself. But it was a resistance. Oh, I'm sorry. I did do some reading. I read for about an hour. So it's not that I didn't do anything, but I talked to a client, gave some coaching. So it wasn't that I didn't do anything, but when I still look at the time, I said, well, if my life ended, if your life ends and you still have something to do, are you successful? It depends. Dr. Miles Monroe, my mentor, even though it seemed like his life was cut short, he didn't have anything else to do. God knew it was his time. He had accomplished enough. He had accomplished the reason for his life. Sometimes we don't know. We don't always know when that time, we don't know when that time comes. No one knows when they're going to die. So in Dr. Miles' case, he accomplished the reason for his life. Now, but what about us? We're still here. Are we going to allow time to get the best of us? Are we going to look back and one day be in our deathbed like, man, I wish I would have. Man, I wish I would have just spent a few more hours a day, focusing in on what I have to do. No one wants to do that. No one plans for it. And have you ever heard someone say, you know what? I'm just going to waste my life. I don't think you've ever heard a friend or a family member or anybody say, I think I'm going to waste my life. I don't think we said that. We usually will say, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. I just start tomorrow. Do you see the difference here? No one says I'm going to waste my life. We say things like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm just going to start tomorrow. So imagine all the days and the years that I'm going to do this thing and start tomorrow. So it felt like we were actually going to do something, but we never did it. It's the same as saying, I'm going to waste my life. So how do we not waste the years? Right? How do we not waste the years? First thing we got to recognize is this: the resistance. It's natural, it's there, and it'll be there. Second thing you got to recognize is you can get rid of the resistance. And here's how you get rid of it. You start. You literally, hey, if there's something to do, you actually start doing it. The resistance hits me every single day when it's time to do these push-ups. And I'm like, I don't want to do them. I don't want to do them. They hurt. Until I start. I got to get through the first 25 to 50. Once I get through about 50, then all of a sudden my muscles are like, okay, we're back. But the first 1, 2, 3, it hurts. The resistance is there. Like, yeah, I don't know why you're doing this. There's no reason. There's no reason you should be doing this. But it's the starting. Once I start, then it's like, okay, I can do it. So if 1, we have to recognize we got to start. 2, we got to recognize that in order for the resistance to go away, we actually have to start doing something. Well, then once we start doing something, all right, so what do we have to kind of like, how do we keep ourselves in momentum? Thank you. How do we keep ourselves in momentum? It's literally putting it on repeat. So, and planning out what we're going to do. I haven't done this part well. And when I say this part, it's the part of the planning, the sitting down, the getting started, the times, like literally usually I find myself when I put things on my calendar, they get done. When there's like a lot of times, like if there's somebody else involved, it's always going to get done. But if it's just myself, it doesn't always get done. Why is that? Because the reason why that is because we can easily let down ourselves, but we won't let down others. So if you were going to master this resistance, then you would need to tell somebody else what you're doing. So I would need to tell someone, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm doing. Make sure I get it done. Hit me up. These are the things that I said I'm going to do. I'm in my throat. So, excuse me. Years of wasted time unless you find what? We got to find the resistance. Once we find the resistance, realize that, hey, I can actually beat this resistance by doing what? By getting started, and by then letting other people know what I'm doing, but not just a lot of people, just a couple of people, maybe 1 or 2. Let some people know what I'm doing. Hold me accountable so that I can kind of keep staying in momentum, because we don't want to waste time. We don't want to look back and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I didn't do this thing. Let's do the thing, right? Let's account for our life. Let's account for the visions and the missions and the dreams that God has given us. Let's allow ourselves to beat resistance, because when you beat resistance, you'll not only help yourself, you'll wind up helping somebody else. So guys, I thank you for joining me for this episode of the I AFYL Podcast. Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. God bless, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.